Hi everybody, my name is Paul Gerard. I'm a student loan consultant and I'm very pleased to be working with the American Podiatric Medical Association and the Young Physicians Institute to provide you with some repayment modules that we hope will help you manage your student loans. Whether you are a recent graduate from a school of podiatric medicine and serving in your residency program, or actually a practicing podiatrist, we hope this information will help you. We have a number of different modules, and this first module is on some very simple steps to help you select a repayment strategy. Now, whether you just graduated and you're trying to determine a repayment strategy to get started, or you've actually been out a while and maybe you are simply reviewing your repayment strategy, there are three questions we think that you should ask yourself. The first one's a bit of a three-parter. You obviously need to know what you borrowed, what kind of loans are in your student loan portfolio, who has the loans, meaning who is your loan servicer. These are organizations like Fed Loan Servicing, Great Lakes, Navient, Nelnet. These tend to be the big four for the majority of federal loans. There are some other loan servicers, but those are names you probably know. And you need to know when the loans come due. And if you've been out for a while and perhaps you've been postponing your payments with, for example, a forbearance, you need to know when that status is up and when you need to make a decision about entering repayment. So what did you borrow, who has the loans, and when are they coming due? The second step is to identify and constantly review your repayment objectives. We'll look at these in detail in a moment. And then number three, simply select a repayment option to help you meet those repayment objectives while you're in residency and practice, and also know how to shift gears as needed. So step number one, your student loan portfolio. Many of you are familiar with this. The National Student Loan Data System, nslds.ed.gov. This is where all of your federal loans are housed. You don't actually manage your loans on this site, but if you're not clear what you borrowed, you should be able to find all of your federal loans here. And if for some reason you still don't know who your loan servicer is, log in to nslds.ed.gov, and when you get to the financial aid summary, simply click on the number to the left of each loan and you'll find out who your loan servicer is and get some information on your loan servicer. One of the advantages we've seen recently for graduates is that all of your federally owned loans should be with one loan servicer. So you may have, for example, 4 direct unsubsidized loans coming out of podiatric medical school and maybe some Grad Plus loans as well, but they are likely all with one loan servicer, and that negates from many of you the need to consolidate. You may have a different loan servicer for any campus-based loans. These would be loans directly from the school, such as Federal Perkins. If you think you have some loans that are not on NSLDS, that probably means they are private loans, and you can look at your credit report or contact the financial aid office at the school where you think you took those loans out. But all of your federal loans are on the nslds.ed.gov site. Now, this is a listing of some of the different loans you may have in your student loan portfolio. We've highlighted direct unsubsidized and direct plus because these tend to make up the bulk of, if not all of, the student loan portfolios for many podiatric medical school students. The direct unsubsidized is sometimes referred to as Stafford, and direct plus is often called the Grad Plus loan. By the way, those of you who had loans before 2012, you may have some subsidized Stafford loans, especially if you had some in college or you were in graduate school or podiatric medical school before 2012. In 2012, the government stopped making subsidized Stafford loans to graduate and professional students. These loans have fixed interest rates, and the direct unsubsidized or Stafford has a 6-month grace period. The plus loans don't have a grace period, but they have something that works in the same way. It's called a 6-month post-enrollment deferment. So again, if you recently graduated from podiatric medical school, these loans have a 6-month window period on them. They'll be coming due about 6 months after graduation. You may also have some campus-based loans. This would again be something like the Federal Perkins, and some of you may have private loans. Our guess is that if you have any private loans, they are likely from college. So once you know what you borrowed, who has the loans, and when they're coming due, step number 2 is to determine your repayment objectives and constantly review them. We've listed some of the common repayment objectives that we run into when speaking with podiatric medical school graduates. You might want to be aggressive at repayment to try and reduce the impact of all that interest building up, called interest accrual, and capitalization. Remember that capitalization is where all the interest that you've not paid at some point, and it's usually at repayment, is added back to the original amount that you borrowed. That raises the base amount of the loan on which interest is then charged. So capitalization, clearly not a good thing. So you may want to be aggressive in repayment, and if that is the case, you probably want to find a repayment plan with a manageable payment, such as an income-driven repayment plan, and then overpay on the most expensive loan. If you pay over and above the required payment amount or the minimum payment amount, you can work with your loan servicer to target the extra money on the most expensive loan, like a Grad Plus. Some of you may need to be careful by protecting your cash and maximizing your cash flow and watching your cash flow at least for a while. If that's the case, you're probably either going to choose an income-driven repayment plan with a low payment, or if you are still in training in your residency program, you might even postpone payments with a mandatory residency forbearance. Although the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program tends not to be a program that many podiatric medical school students pursue simply because of your career path, some of you may be interested in trying to qualify for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. We have a separate module on PSLF. If that is your repayment objective, you'll need to get into an income-driven repayment plan and not make additional payments over and above the minimum payment amount as long as PSLF is part of your repayment strategy. In other words, you want to make the minimum payments to maximize how much is going to be forgiven through public service loan forgiveness. And finally, another repayment objective, some of you may be interested in what are called service commitment programs, such as the National Health Service Corps or the Armed Forces, or perhaps even some state programs where the organization will pay you money to help you pay down your student loans in exchange for your service. They're not forgiving your loans. They didn't make the loan to you. They are simply providing financial support in exchange for service. So once you know what you borrowed, who's got the loans, and when they're coming due, and you have a pretty good idea about how you want to go about repaying your student loans, step number 3 is simply to choose a repayment plan that's going to help you do just that. And the repayment plans can get complicated, but we've broken them down into 2 categories here. One, the time-driven plans. These are actually very simple if you can afford the payments. The payments have absolutely nothing to do with your income or your family size. They are simply based on the amount you borrowed and the interest, and those payments are amortized, or that amount is amortized or spread out over a 10-year period, 120 payments, or an extended period, 25 years or 300 payments. The payments never change unless you use graduated versions of these plans, which are not terribly popular. So time-driven plans, standard 10-year, extended 25-year. The nice thing about these plans, if you can afford them, is you know for a fact you will be debt-free after 10 years or 25 years if you simply make the minimum payments. That's the way that these work. But if you cannot afford a time-driven plan, then you may be interested in what's called an income-driven repayment plan, and we have a separate module for you on income-driven repayment plans. The payments change every year, very important. That's a major difference between income plans and time-driven plans. The monthly payments are based on income and family size, and you have to renew the payments every year with your loan servicer. Once again, more information on that in a separate module that we have on income-driven repayment. The most popular plans are IBR, income-based repayment. That's an older one. Pay-as-you-earn, known as Pay, and the newest one, revised Pay-as-you-earn, known as Repay. Now, as we wind up this first module, a listing of some additional resources for you. Again, we mentioned some other repayment modules we have online on the Young Physicians Institute site. We have a separate one on income-driven repayment, also on public service loan forgiveness. We have one on federal consolidation, which many of you will not need, and also one on refinancing with private lenders that you may find of interest. There's a very good calculator called the MedLoans Organizer and Calculator that is part of the Association of American Medical Colleges site. And yes, we know that's allopathic medicine, but this is a terrific calculator that accommodates residency programs and the difference in the income between being a resident and a practicing podiatrist. So you may be interested in using the MedLoans Organizer and Calculator. There is a small fee to use this if you are not an allopathic medical school graduate. Also, studentloans.gov, there's a terrific repayment estimator calculator on that site as well. So some additional information or additional resources that may help you. This is the end of module number 1.